Hello there YouTube, it's your boy B3, back with another kicking, and you guessed it, graphic novel review. Today I have a really cool one, Hellboy, the Complete Short Stories Omnibus, Volume 1. Yes, I reviewed the Hellboy Omnibus, Volume 1, earlier, and according to the most recent reading order that my partner gave me, he's a huge Hellboy guy, this was actually next. Not Hellboy Omnibus Volume 2, but this was actually next in my reading order. So I will be trying to read and review these in the correct order. Even though that can't 100% be done without doing single issues, or at least it can't be done in the omnibuses. But whatever. It's complicated and hard to explain. But it is, of course, by Mike Mignola and others. But Mignola is swiftly becoming just one of my all-time favorite comic creators. I can't believe I sat on Hellboy so long. Anyway, let me give you a quick read-up of the back of the book real quick, alright? Since introducing Hellboy in March of 1994, Christ, Hellboy's only a few months older than me, Mike Mignola has built a huge comic book universe around the character on par with what Stan Lee and Jack Kirby accomplished in the Silver Age of Marvel Comics. That's true, I would agree with that. Each new visual is like a masterclass in establishing mood, and Mignola's skill increases as he refines his line, proving that less is more when it comes to his pulp-inspired fantasy horror universe. That's from the AV Club. And I completely agree with that quote, like 100%. I love all this pulpy stuff. I've said it in many videos. I love like pulpy comics and things like those dinosaurs at the center of the earth, but the Nazis have a war machine, and uh-oh, the Phantom's here, and he's gonna shoot some people. Love that stuff. Oh my god, I love that stuff. And Hellboy is a great homage to that, as well as many other things, which you'll see soon. Anyway, continuing on with the back of the book, for the first time, Hellboy's complete story is presented in chronological order for the ultimate reading experience. These 15 short stories written by Mike Mignola give you the perfect introduction to the character and the world of Hellboy. These early days of his monster hunting career from 1947 to 1961 include the entirety of his Mexico adventures, featuring art by Fabio Moon, Gabriel Ba, I think that's how that's pronounced, and Mick McMahon, with over 70 pages drawn by Mignola himself. And you can tell when it is and isn't Mignola. He just has such a recognizable and magnificent style. Anyways, more than half of the book is drawn by Hall of Famer Richard Corbin, including the award-winning Southern Gothic tale, The Crooked Man. The 2 volumes of the complete short stories, together with the 4-volume Omnibus series, collect all of Mignola's award-winning Hellboy stories in chronological order, reprinting Mignola's Eisner award-winning collaborations with Richard Corbin, including Double Feature of Evil, as well as seminal, not the kind of seminal my partner, ignore that, ignore that bad joke. I'm sorry. The seminal Mignola-drawn series, The Corpse and the Nature of the Beast. And the complete graphic novels, Hellboy in Mexico, House of the Living Dead, and previously only available in hardcover, The Midnight Circus, drawn by Duncan Fegredo, who also did Hellboy, The Wild Hunt. It's from Dark Horse Comics. I think Mignola actually owns Hellboy, but Dark Horse just distributes, I believe is the case here. But, let me tell you, this is some magnificent stuff. And I hope you remember high school Spanish, because you're going to need it. The Spanish is not translated. Luckily, I remembered enough high school Spanish to get through it. But the stories are all in English in my volume. It takes place in Mexico, some people speak Spanish. That's how it is. There's one really short, super funny story where someone gives Hellboy pancakes when he's a small child, and he doesn't want to try them. You know how small children are. And then he, takes a bite, and he loves it. Just a normal, childhood moment. But then you see all these devils screaming in hell. And like Mammon and others are like, he has eaten the pancakes. He is lost to us. So funny. Then there's one called the Midnight Circus, which is also where Hellboy is a child, maybe a little older than the pancakes story. But he is eating pancakes in it. So maybe it takes place immediately at the end of that story now, I think. Maybe it is right after that. Oh well. Anyway, he's kind of having a crisis. He's a little insecure about his age because he's not really around kids his age ever. He's only around all these adult guys, so he kind of wants to mimic them, and it's pretty basic stuff. So he's gonna like try his first cigarette and stuff, but then he finds out about this circus, and he goes to the circus, and yeah, it's a supernatural demon circus with just some gorgeous art. Dear Lord, it's not Magnolia, but it's magnificently beautiful. And like ringmaster of this circus is talking to Hellboy about Pinocchio, and we get some Lobster Johnson name drops. That's something I've wanted to read for a long time, even before I started reading Hellboy. I can't wait to get to him, honestly. And this ringleader is trying to manipulate Hellboy, it seems, into coming back to the demon side, into using his demon-y powers. We all know Hellboy's a demon. Anyway, he fights some apes. That's a very pulpy thing, fighting apes. There's just all kinds of crazy supernatural stuff. Like, in a lot of these, one supernatural thing will be happening, and then Hellboy will stumble into a second, or even sometimes a third, different supernatural thing. But Hellboy does end up thinking it's all a dream. Then we get to a story called Nature of the Beast, where Hellboy has to fight this big worm dragon, and he's not the one that beats it. And it's very interesting, and it's about the nature of Hellboy, and we see something that his blood does to the ground. I won't spoil that, but it's interesting. Then there is another story, this one is Magnolia John, with Hellboy goes to help one of his adopted father's friends. His adopted father is being kind of a selfish ass. He wants Hellboy to kind of defeat this werewolf hound berserker so that he can get gold for Hellboy's efforts. But, the ghost that he's trying to fuck around with is not fooled by him. Sorry, King Vold has your number, dude. There's a lot of gold coins in this omnibus. I just want to say that. There are gold coins in this issue, and they're in a lot of the short stories. Just so many gold coins. Then we get into Hellboy in Mexico. There's a little Abe Sapien there. I kind of want to get back on the main Hellboy book so I can see some more Abe and some b.r.p.d, and Abe Sapien even has solo stuff I really want to get into. I really like Abe Sapien a lot. But Hellboy's telling him this story about how he used to fight monsters with these luchadors, this trio of luchadors, and they didn't really speak much. They were told by the Virgin Mary to fight monsters and stop being luchadors, but they kept the outfits. You gotta love it. You just do. But, Hellboy joins up with them. They become friends, and Hellboy becomes best friends with one of them. The other two, they're like chummy with him, but it's more professional. But then one of them is his bestest buddy in the whole world. But he gets drunk, and he stumbles outside at night when he shouldn't, and he is attacked and turned into this vampire bat luchador called Camazotz, which is actually something from the mythology down in Central and South America. That is an actual mythology. I think it's Aztec. Is that right? Or is it Mayan? It's something like that. It's something like that. It's like this big vampire bat monster that turns to stone during the day and then turns back into a monster at night. Classic stuff. But Hellboy has to fight him and basically put his friend down so his soul can be at peace and all this stuff. But it does ruin his relationship with the other two brothers, sadly. And then Hellboy spends a lot of time in Mexico after that. And a lot of it is spent drinking. But there's a lot of supernatural shit going down in Mexico as well. He's got to punch some bats and some friggin' mummies with snakes in their skulls. All kinds of crazy shit. There's even one where he gets married to a supernatural being, and his wedding ring turns into a snake and stuff. The art in that one wasn't the best. Like, it was good, better than anything I'll ever be able to do for sure. But just compared to the other art in this book, it didn't feel as spectacular. Though I do think the colorist did a good job. That story used color really well. It's just, other than that, the style wasn't really for me. But I love how just the Hellboy series in general just uses color. It looks like it's basically drawn on black paper. Kind of like, I don't know if you've read it, but I have reviewed it. Batman Gotham by Gaslight looks like it was drawn on black paper, almost, because it's so dark. And Hellboy actually really reminds me of Gotham by Gaslight in many, many ways. Many, 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 many ways. So, let us continue forward, my friends. Hellboy does want a divorce, by the way. But, there's someone called the Coffin Man. He takes corpses and seems to do things with them. And Hellboy is sent to stop him. He has to fight his donkey. Yes, that's a thing that happens. The donkey is hella stacked. But Hellboy fights this Coffin Man, and of course the Coffin Man knows his true nature. And he kind of whoops Hellboy's ass. He turns him into a freaking chimpanzee and leaves him naked in the desert. The Hellboy does not beat the Coffin Man. He beats most of the things that I've seen him go up against. Especially in this volume, but yep, that's that. He gets beat by the Coffin Man. But then we see he spent some time as a luchador. Pretty cool. And then someone comes to him, and this story is one of my favorites. Because you guys know that I am a huge Universal Monsters fan. And it's very, very clear in really all of his work that Mignola is as well. And this story, I'll be damned if it's not a direct homage to House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula. The latter of which being one of my favorite movies of all time. I love House of Dracula. I could watch it on repeat. It's a huge inspiration for the adventures of Dr. Scientist and many other things that I will eventually release. I'm sorry. I have a busy life, okay? I have my own business and I work with museums, alright? I'm a busy guy. Plus I do this. Anyway, House of the Living Dead is great. I loved it. I adored it. So Hellboy's a luchador, and someone comes to fetch Hellboy. And he's like, Hellboy, please come with me. I'll give you a lot of money. Hellboy's like, no, fuck you. No, I'm not going to do that. And then the guy's like, okay, I'm sorry about this, but we kidnapped this woman, and we will kill her if you don't come with us. So Hellboy goes to this house, and in it is a wrestling ring. And in that wrestling ring is Frankenstein's monster, ready to have a luchador match with Hellboy. If you are not erect this very moment, I recommend seeing a doctor, because holy shit, this is the coolest. There's a mad scientist, there's the hunchback, and it's a little taboo for the whole hunchback monster thing these days, but there is one, you know. And so they force Hellboy into this luchador match with Frankenstein's monster. It's a crazy fight, and there's these little demons that are manipulating the mad scientist It's truly incredible. And I love the art in this one too. Once again, looking like it was drawn on black paper. And then the guy that went to fetch Hellboy that was working for the mad scientist, we find out he's not a bad guy. He's just a werewolf. And the doctor provides medicine that staves off the transformation, and in return he has to serve the doctor. He's basically being extorted. But he turns into a werewolf, one that uses a gun, by the way, and he's very Lon Chaney looking. Like, because there were werewolves in the Hellboy Omnibus Volume 1, and they had kind of the long canine snouts, but this guy doesn't. He has kind of the flat face, the very Lon Chaney werewolf design, and that has to be intentional. There's just no effing way it's not. Anyway, he's a werewolf with a gun. It's pretty wild, but his gun has silver bullets in it because he pulls it out attempting to kill himself, but then his wild nature gets a hold of him and he shoots the poor woman, whose blood splatters on a vampire that had a holy sword in its chest, but she pulled the holy sword out to fight the werewolf, and then the blood splatters on the vampire. This is so effing House of. It's insane. By the way, if you weren't familiar with the House of films, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, they were the Universal Monsters Avengers films. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. They have, a mad scientist in them, but they also all have, like, a hunchback, and they all have Dracula, the Wolfman, and Frankenstein's monster, and it's a literal crime that the Wolfman didn't get a House of film of his own, but, spoiler alert, he was cured of his affliction in House of Dracula. Like, finally, really, truly cured. And I also know that it would have been a shame to make him a werewolf again. Oh, but what about Abbott and Costello? That's a different continuity. Abbott and Costello is a different continuity. It has to be. Anyway, the vampire doesn't do much. Hellboy just kills it immediately. And then, like, all the vampire brides kind of show up. They might be ghosts, but they appear to be like the ghostly vampire bride kind of things that you kind of see in the Bela Lugosi Dracula film, And it seems that they are actually one of the major things that made Hellboy lose his memory. And not just the alcohol. Because the alcohol would have made him forget a lot, but not as much time as he was wandering through Mexico. So his memory was lost for a supernatural reason, which makes sense. And it ends in an amazing way with him and Frankenstein's monster drinking together. I love this time in Mexico. Then we have our award-winning Crooked Man story, which I really loved. I love folk horror. I grew up and actually still live in an extremely rural area. So, like, I get folk horror. And this is folk horror at its best. This is like Pumpkinhead level shit right here. Pumpkinhead, very underrated. Anyway, there are witches in this rural area. And this one guy who's kind of half a witch, like he never really completed his transformation into witch, teams up with Hellboy to fight witches. And this crooked man that makes witches for the devil and gives them like demon familiars and etc. Well, he wants this motherfucker's soul. He wants him to use this lucky bone that he was given to make things go in his favor so that he can own his soul. But it's just a really horrifying book. Like, when I'm usually reading these Hellboy stories, I'm thinking about how awesome they are. But during this story, I was like, that's actually freakish. That's actually horrifying. Like, the horse, the reveal about the horse was pretty insane, to be completely honest. All the art is, like, freakish. Like, everyone looks so ugly and diseased, and the detail is like there's too much of it, and that's clearly intentional. Like you're seeing every little speck of age and hardship that these people have gone through on their faces. And I don't want to tell you everything because I want you to read all this for yourself. But there is some wild stuff in this award-winning, as it said, story. There's this blind pastor who is pretty cool and pretty good at, you know, not being tempted by the crooked man. But it seems like he does maybe like the ladies, and the crooked man tries to use that against him. And the crooked man is drawn so well. What a cool SCP. Sorry. There is an SCP called that though, and I thought of it every time he showed up in this. But yep, we get more gold coins, and then all these corpses popping up from the churchyard, and things about Hellboy's nature. And they fight the crooked man with a holy shovel. That's a real thing that happens. They fight a demonic damned soul with a blessed shovel. It's awesome. It's the best. There is so much going on here. They find the crooked man's true form with all his gold, and it's not really gold, and they send him back to hell, and they punish the main witch in a very ironic way. You have to read these stories, people. Then we get one called The Penangalan. This is also something. This is a real creature from Asian folklore that I also learned about through SCPs. It's about one of those creatures where the woman's head detaches from the body and all the organs come out her neck, and then it like eats babies and sucks blood and stuff, and then has to soak in vinegar to shrink its organs to get them back into the body. It's a very interesting, underrated critter. It's just about Hellboy fighting one. This story has Mignola's magnificent art, but it's incredibly predictable, especially if you're familiar with this kind of creature. Like, you know the twist, and they also set up how he beats her pretty easily. You just know what happens. There's another one called The Corpse. This one's very interesting. A baby goes missing. It's replaced with this kind of demon, kind of fae. More like a fae. It's replaced with this fae baby. Human baby's replaced with a fae baby. And Hellboy drives the fae away, and then he goes to get the baby back, but he has to basically do what these fae say. He has to play their game, abide by their rules, and take this corpse and bury it on holy ground before the sun comes up. That is what he must do. But most of the places he goes, like, the dead come alive there and tell him that there's no room, or they violently evict him. And this corpse is like hugging his neck and talking to him, and it's a very entertaining book. It's creepy, it's funny, it's cool. There's action, intrigue, some mystery. It's just a magnificent story. It really, truly is. Hellboy fights this giant pig man. There's just so much in it that happens. But he does get the baby back. Don't worry. Then we get our double feature, which is basically just two stories that are framed. Like, there are a few corpses in an abandoned movie theater, and the movie theater is full of, like, Universal Monsters posters, even ones for the more obscure ones, like Cat People and Mummy's Ghost. I've seen Mummy's Ghost multiple times. I have Cat People on DVD, but have never watched it. Is that weird? It's just in one of my, like, big sets. and I just haven't gotten to it. Anyway, the first one that these corpses watch is called Sullivan's Reward. It's about this guy, he's an alcoholic, and then there's this house, and the house itself is possessed by a ghost. It comes into his possession, and it takes away his alcoholism, but in return, he has to, like, feed people to the house. Y'all ever seen Monster House? It's kind of like Monster House. And he seems like he doesn't want to do it at first, and he gets Hellboy's help. But, spoilers, he very much does seem to enjoy doing it. Not only does it keep his alcoholism at bay, assuming that was even the truth, but the house gives him gold coins. Yeah, the house gives him gold coins. And eventually, that greed is very directly his undoing when he tries to feed Hellboy to the house. But then Hellboy finds the source of the ghost's power in this very freakish way, this very freakish image that I will reserve for you. But then there is another story, The House of Sebek, which I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. And there's this guy that works in a museum gift shop who kind of goes a little crazy. Like, he was already crazy, but now he's like thinking he's a pharaoh. And this woman he works with who's never returned his affection, it looks like he's gonna like sacrifice her, and he's brought all these mummies back to life, but the mummies are not strong. Like, they turn to dust like as soon as Hellboy smacks them. And then this guy runs into a certain temple. He runs into Sebek's temple and starts praying to Horus. And that pisses Sebek off. So that hoe comes to life and just slaughters him. Guess he didn't know his Egyptology as well as he thought. Then there's a story called The Iron Shoes, and it's about a certain little demon that's immune to the burn of iron, and it has these big iron boots that it wears to, like, step on and crush people. It's a fun little one. It's more of an entertaining, just really short, like just a few pages. And Hellboy, like, tricks him into jumping out a window, and it's really no issue for Hellboy. He does it super fast, but the art is great, and it's funny. It's just a cute little story. Then we get more of Mignola's sketchbooks for Hellboy, and I love these. There were a lot of trade paperbacks and graphic novels and stuff that have sketches and stuff in the back. And the more corporate ones are less interesting to me. Like, I have a lot of DC and Marvel ones where I've just skimmed through or ignored the tiny sketchbook portion. But in this, the sketchbook portion is huge, and it's got, like, quotes and stuff from Mignola and others. And, like, some little pieces of the script and whatnot. It's Mignola's sketchbook stuff is really magnificent. Really, really magnificent sketches. And we can even see some stuff that didn't quite make it into this volume. Like, there's a picture in here that kind of looks like a manticore, but that never really made it onto there. I think that was for Bride of Hell, but I don't remember seeing a manticore for Bride of Hell. So, oh well. Or Hellboy Gets Married, I suppose is what it was called. Anyway, that is it for Hellboy, the Complete Short Stories Omnibus, Volume 1. My final thoughts are that it is an absolute 100% must read. If you're a pulp fan, a horror fan, a comic fan, a superhero fan, even though I don't really super see Hellboy as a superhero, but you have to read it. I love how the b.r.p.d. and Hellboy aren't a secret organization. Like, the whole world knows about them. I think that's very interesting and kind of refreshing, because these paranormal fighting organizations are always secret in media. And it's nice to see a kind of world where that's just the world. It also has a really timeless feel to it. It does tell you the dates these things are happening, but it feels so timeless. And I think that really allows them to do so much with the world and with the characters. Anyway, it's pretty much perfect all the way through. I absolutely loved it. There was just some art in one that I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I liked all the stories. Anyway, that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I'm going to try to read and review all the Hellboy stuff I possibly can. So that's it. Thank you all once again. I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.